Coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, on the Pro Wrestling Report, we've got big news on the controversy surrounding Wrestling Society X. We'll talk about No Way Out from this past weekend. Also, big TNA news, WrestleMania news, your email, and the fan of the week, hits and misses, top 5, all kinds of stuff.
And I'll say stuff, too.
Here on the Pro Wrestling Report. Stay tuned. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the world's most watched professional wrestling news program. This is the Pro Wrestling Report. Damian Nelson sitting alongside the man they call Meathead. And this is, as I said, the international phenomenon known as the Pro Wrestling Report. Meathead, how you been? What'd you do last week? Anything special, fun? You stay out of jail?
I had a little fun over the weekend, and I think a little bit's left, actually.
Must have been Taco Bell.
You know what's odd, though, is they usually say that grass doesn't grow on a busy street.
Let's go into our top story, ladies and gentlemen. There are several bits of controversy surrounding the new organization, Wrestling Society X. As you saw, there was no Wrestling Society X on MTV this past Tuesday up against ECW.
Doesn't matter.
It's a Freudian slip. This week's show was pulled by MTV due to a violation of their standards and practices. Didn't know MTV had those, but they felt that it was too risky, the angle that was going to be played out where Vampiro was going to be hit in the face with a fireball. Now, keep in mind, this is a gimmick we've seen in wrestling for years, since Eddie Gilbert took one in the 80s.
It just happened by
things in the world.
The Reverend James Mitchell, to Sting. It just happened.
Yes, indeed. However, they thought kids at home might try that same type of scenario.
It's flash paper.
It is, but not if kids at home try it. MTV being very hesitant and tentative due to the problems they had with their Jackass television program, that they did receive some problems because of kids trying those stunts at home. Meathead.
My name is Meathead, and I'm a jackass.
Is this too cautious by MTV or a justified move?
Neither.
Nor?
Neither or. No,
okay.
You can't do the two N-words.
We've seen a lot on the show already. We've seen people get thrown into exploding dumpsters. We've seen all kinds of wacky stuff on WSX.
We've seen some sort of explosion each show.
So what makes this different? Why is this so heinous? Is it because the kids at home really couldn't try to do an exploding garbage dumpster?
Or an exploding coffin?
Never electrocuting children.
Electrocuting something? That's happened already, too.
That is true. The show does return next week, February 27th. Episode number 4 of Wrestling Society X, number 5 of Wrestling Society X will be airing on February 27th. So, the show has not been canceled. The show is still on. However, oddly, instead of skipping that taping and airing them in the regular slots, they pulled the entire episode off of the MTV schedule, which I think has 4 shows on it that really have a time that they air each week at a regular time.
I'm a big South Park fan and a big Family Guy fan. And if you watch one of the episodes of South Park, all you have to do is pull one, put Stout into mind, bye-bye WSX. It's on its way out.
Major staff changes at MTV. The executives at MTV, there have been some changes in the decision makers at that
The movers and the shakers are moving and shaking?
The ratings have declined each week. They came out of the gate strong with a 1.0 rating, much like XFL's 10.3 rating, I believe it was, when they first debuted.
And who was the one that related the two of them to each other?
There was a lot of curiosity as to what would happen the subsequent weeks with that rating. And we saw 8.7, I believe, in the second week, and 8.6 in the third week. Still respectable ratings. Still not bad.
Still the same guy that said the same crap about the XFL at the end. They're still getting ready to say...
You want to just let me know when you're done? Or should I let you know when you're done?
I'm not done, but I'll let you go.
The show may move against its spot opposite ECW, as obviously if it were the only game in town, and if fans don't deem it better than ECW, then more people would watch it when it's not
Who
on
would say ECW is more watchable? Who?
MTV may make that call and move Wrestling Society X. Now, there might be a new time.
Kind of like when the Cosbys got moved away from The Simpsons?
There might be a new time or a new night for the show. But the whole season has been taped already. They did their tapings back in November, so they've got a season in the can. I would expect that the season will air, whether it be on MTV 1, 2, 3, or 94. But the season will air, and there is doubt right now as to whether or not there will be a second season on TV of Wrestling Society X. And while they have said Wrestling Society X can continue without MTV support, I don't believe they're going to have the budget and the financial backing to be able to put on similar shows.
They'll just be another independent league that'll have to end up being local.
Possibly, and there's several of those out in Los Angeles already. So I think there's potential with this organization. I think what many people are saying is there's no storyline development, no reason for fans to tune in from week to week. And that is
the
true.
gimmick is worn off.
I still find it a more exciting show. I'm not saying it's a better show, but it's a much more exciting show.
Fest.
I'm a fan of those. It is a more exciting show than ECW. I find myself
ECW
watching
is
WSX.
garbage.
It's gotten better over the last couple
You've
of
been
weeks.
saying that about SmackDown.
I'm a Democrat. I look at the good in everything.
I don't look
You
at the bad.
pessimistic
I am
Republican.
being realistic.
Pessimistic Republican.
Realistic. Get it right. Did you vote this week?
No.
You did not.
I don't vote unless the president's running.
He's your Democrat. And you wonder why your kind ain't running the country.
The first black president will be elected in 2008.
First cokehead.
No, that was George W. Bush.
I set you up. I put it right there.
Let's
for you.
move on into the
I
news
put
and
it
views,
right there
ladies and
for you.
gentlemen.
Tell me I'm not your partner if I didn't just set you up.
Actually, we've got, before we move into news and views, we've got an email here from, we'll talk about the name later, actually it's our fan of the week, but there was a section here on WSX where he says, WSX on MTV, it's quite a marvel to watch, and an exasperating 30 minutes of high-octane wrestling action. The standouts, of course, are Teddy Hart, Jack Evans, my favorite, the Filth and Fury tag team, another favorite, the Human Tornado, amazing athlete. The added special pyro effects ranging from table electrocution to blowing up coffins and body caskets are awesome, and something sorely needed back in the EFUEW. I could see them increasing WSX to a 1-hour show initially if their ratings continue to range between a 5.5 and a 1.2 in their second season. Overall, a great product, but as also duly noted by Mr. Thickburger Meathead, it is not a wrestling federation and more like a backyard wrestling attraction at Universal Studios Hollywood or something.
It sure
Interesting
does
from
feel
Brent,
like that.
I'm sorry, from Brent Armstrong in Richmond.
Sure
Virginia.
does. It sure does feel like a backyard.
Electrocution. You ever seen the movie Saw? The
Nope.
original?
Nope.
Damn. Let's move on into news and views, ladies and gentlemen. The first of which is TNA. Total Nonstop Action has moved forward with their expansion plans for 2007, and they have announced their first house show of the year that they are actually putting on, which will be at the Louisville Gardens in the historic Louisville, Kentucky, site of Name the Pay-Per-View. There was one significant pay-per-view, the first 3-hour In-Your-House pay-per-view back in 1997, I believe it was.
Do not know.
Came from the Louisville Gardens.
Do not
JR
know.
got stunnered for the first time by Stone Cold Steve Austin, who had his neck broke by Owen Hart. The Patriot, Del Wilkes was on the show. It was Ground Zero, the first 3-hour WWE In-Your-House pay-per-view show, which was a great show.
I'm just glad that
from
you
the
said it was
Louisville
coming
Garden.
from Louisville at the Louisville Garden. I'm glad it's in Louisville. Thanks for letting me know.
I don't think I like you. I don't.
I set you up.
So. There are more house shows to come. As you know, St. Louis will host Lockdown on April 15th on pay-per-view at the Family Arena. Tickets are moving pretty briskly for that show. They're trying to sell about 8,000 to 9,000 of them, so it'll be interesting to see how that all develops because they only sold 4,200 or so for the Detroit show, but that was all that were available. So a glass ceiling, if you will, on that particular event, but we'll see what happens in San Luis,
I'd like to
a
go
historic
I'd like
wrestling
to go
town.
to Lockdown. That'd be a nice show to go to.
If St. Louis is not one of my favorite cities.
No, I was planning on stopping in East St. Louis first.
Not one of my favorites. I had a family reunion there once.
Oh my!
Yes.
Um,
If you're driving to St. Louis, when you get to East St. Louis, accelerate.
And not like in Vacation where Chevy Chase just blew right through and then stopped
He
and
was
asked
in
for
Detroit.
directions.
Or actually, wasn't he in
It
East
was
St. Louis?
East St. Louis.
Wow. We've got a WrestleMania 23 spoiler, ladies and gentlemen. Turn your computers down or your televisions down if you don't want to hear this. But it will be in the hair versus hair match. Donald Trump will be represented by Bobby Lashley from ECW. That's exactly the reaction that is needed for that particular announcement, because it has so much potential. You keep climbing that ladder, rung by damn rung, as The Rock said once, and then you get to the top and you find Black Lesnar.
Why?
Vince McMahon obviously announced that Umaga is his representative, which was an interesting choice, by the way.
I thought it'd be Kali.
Rumored special referee for that matchup is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
But
here's how it happens. Donald Trump comes out.
Going the phrase already by the end, so you can do.
Donald Trump comes out and trumps Vince McMahon by saying he picked 2 representatives. He announces the first representative to be Bobby Lashley. All the fans grab for their tissue. Then he announces his other representative, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
As the glass breaks, by the way.
But doesn't say right away. We'll probably get another week out of it as to when they announce that Austin's going to be the special guest referee. How do we know this? Well, there was a picture from a photo shoot on E! Entertainment Television showing the participants with Donald Trump and Vince McMahon that accidentally got broadcast. So that may and probably will change, to be honest with you, because WWE likes to throw those swerves out there.
I'm telling you who I believe it should have been and could still be, should be Hogan.
Well, as we said in last week's episode of the Pro Wrestling
Hogan
Report,
believes that he's not involved in WrestleMania 23. Hogan has been known to lie.
Embellish. There's a difference.
Or get
Republicans
drunk.
lie,
Or
Democrats embellish.
Or get drunk at the pool and try to upset his wife.
Melina is the new WWE Women's Champion, and another rumored match for WrestleMania.
Does that mean roast beef goes on sale now?
Melina versus, the price probably goes up actually. Melina versus Ashley
You ever had the special sauce on there?
at WrestleMania, which makes a lot of sense because that's when the Playboy comes out, I believe, March 12th. So to continue to get more publicity from that, makes a lot of sense to have Ashley in the match. However, Mickie James and Melina would have been, Mickie James and anybody, quite frankly, would have been a better match.
Make it a 3-way.
Taz, the ECW broadcaster, has his own radio show now on free 92.3 FM. Come on, give me a station identification.
You're listening to Free 92.3 FM.
It's New York City's something on every day of the week.
New York
except
City's
Tuesday.
home of the Crooklyn
For
Crooks.
2 hours between 10 p.m. and 12 a.m., Taz will be hosting his very own radio show on that particular channel in New York. WWE presented No Way Out this past weekend. SmackDown branded pay-per-view. The main event was the 4 participants in WrestleMania in tag team action. John Cena teaming with his opponent, Shawn Michaels, going up against The Undertaker, teaming with his opponent at WrestleMania, Batista. The match called by JBL and JBL alone because Michael Cole had a cold. He's sorry. And the pay-per-view overall stunk up by Lashley Kennedy.
And
it
not
was
by
not
Kennedy's
fault.
Not
You
by
have an
Kennedy.
ECW championship match on a SmackDown pay-per-view leading into WrestleMania, which I support.
Say what you just said.
I support.
No, back.
You have an ECW championship match on a SmackDown
Right there.
pay-per-view leading into WrestleMania. Right there. Leading into WrestleMania. We are on the road to WrestleMania right now.
How?
Just because your car can't keep up with the other cars in the road
Is this a
doesn't mean
SmackDown pay-per-view?
with an ECW championship match, it's a special
With Raw
attraction.
talent on it as well. They have so little going on SmackDown right now.
Have you watched the show?
They have
SmackDown? You're wearing your little blue shirt.
Hold
They're
on.
SmackDown
You
number
say-
1 announcer.
You say that SmackDown keeps getting better, and I really like watching. You have so little going on SmackDown right now. You need to fill the rest of the show with Raw and ECW talent.
In a promotional vehicle for the road to WrestleMania.
Crap. That's crap.
That's what the match was as well. You have an ECW championship match on a SmackDown pay-per-view leading into WrestleMania for the 3rd time, and you don't make it Extreme Rules. It could have been distinctly different from everything else on that pay-per-view and been special, but actually it was just another
And it was
Brock
crap
Lesnar
just
match.
thrown together. Which all SmackDown pay-per-views, I guess, are going to be now.
Gregory Helms loses the Cruiserweight Championship after a nearly year-long reign in
Over
a
a year.
Cruiserweight
He won it at
Open
the
where we
Rumble
saw
in
Sean
06.
Daivari. Sean Daivari, who is distinctly larger than the last time we saw him, I believe.
I think he's been working out.
In that matchup, along with Shannon Moore and several other.
You ever notice when
cruiserweights.
Shannon Moore gets thrown on his head, his hair don't break?
The problem in that matchup was they're cruiserweights, and nobody flew. And in my mind, if it's a cruiserweight, because that's what WCW pioneered, was cruiserweights, high-flying cruiserweights. You've got these...
And Lucha
then
Libres.
The weight limit for cruiserweights is 225.
Yeah. Remember when Matt Hardy was working out and in the sweatsuit trying to get down to 225 to wrestle?
Yes.
Yeah, remember when Disco did that in WCW 3 years before that? I do.
No Way Out, an okay pay-per-view. I had such high hopes coming off the strength that was Armageddon in 2006.
Oh, by the way,
it wasn't just the ladder match at Armageddon.
Was Armageddon on the road to WrestleMania 2? Because I thought
The road
Royal
started
Rumble.
at New Year's Revolutions. When the
I
road
thought
started.
Royal Rumble.
No, the road started at.
Okay, so then why was there more Raw talent on Armageddon still?
There were two people from Raw on Armageddon. Hardy and Nitro. That's it.
So that made it okay.
Yes, because Hardy and Nitro, the Eminem and Eminem and the Hardys are your pinch hitters. They're riding the pines and ready to go and step in whenever they can because Nitro and Jeff Hardy equal ratings. They do. Even though Jeff Hardy got robbed of the Intercontinental Championship.
Ooh, my God.
WWE is experimenting with back-to-back house shows. What that means is they're going to experiment at an event in Lowell, Massachusetts on March 10th and May 13th in White Plains, New York, which is where...
White Plains, New York?
Who's from White Plains, New York.
Oh.
He's been on this very program.
Oh.
Oh!
Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He choked the life out of Frank.
Strong ticket sales for those initially announced events are the reason WWE is going to try to run two events in that venue on the same day. You would think they'd go to a larger venue. I don't know if that's an option in those cities, but a unique thing. Remember back in the day, us here in Milwaukee used to get the afternoon show from the wrestlers that would work in Chicago. So they'd come up from Chicago, the show would start, the show in Chicago would end, the big talent would come up and do the main event in both cities. Or you had your A shows and your B shows where you had enough big talent.
Is this WCW?
Sort of like Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah,
where
your
you had
A show
two
and your B
distinctly
show.
different touring
They're
brands.
not distinctly
Making
different.
more money for WWE, more ticket sales for WWE, more branded merchandise being sold for WWE as a result of the brand split, thus making it a success. Carrying on, is it a smart move, do you think, Meathead, to have these dual house shows in one venue on the same day?
If it's making more money for the company, then it's a smart move for the company. But the
Here
fans
comes the money!
don't want that.
What do you mean they don't want it? If the ticket sales are strong for the initially announced event,
Because they probably never go
it's
there.
It's like Madonna. She adds concerts when the first one sells out.
So, because nobody goes there, so that's the big show. You could have sold a donkey show. You ever been to a donkey show?
I looked for it. I don't know if it really exists.
Oh, it does.
There was an Arby's there, though. Sad news coming out of the wrestling world as Mike Awesome has passed away at the young age of 42.
How do you feel about the lack of acknowledgement from WWE?
It was acknowledged immediately after finding out on the website, WWE.com.
I'm talking about on the TV.
This is going to sound more harsh than I mean it to, but I don't know if it would have made sense to do a dedication to him on TV because I don't believe a lot of fans would have recognized
Awesome
who he
did
was.
time. Wrestling fans would have recognized who he was. Awesome did time in WWE.
He was at the initial one-night stand pay-per-view for ECW, did the transition from WCW to WWE when the company was bought, when McMahon went out and bought his competition. But Mike Awesome found dead in his Florida home, apparently as a result of self-inflicted hanging. He was selling real estate for, I believe, Century 21 Realty down in Florida, and the former ECW champion no longer with us. So our condolences go out to Mr. Awesome's family.
My favorite memories of Mike Awesome was him chucking Spike Dudley all over the place. Literally, just picking him up and shot-putting the man across the ring.
Brock Lesnar moving on, ladies and gentlemen, in talks with UFC, apparently. Brock Lesnar, who has his debut date set for his mixed martial arts event with K1 in Japan, Now said to be in talks with UFC. Meathead, we know another guy who is in talks with UFC, or at least
and had a main event at WrestleMania 19.
Exactly. The match between the two, which was very hyped at the time, Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle we're talking about. Very hyped at the time. Brock Lesnar damn near broke his neck. And the match did deliver, but we only saw that one match, really, between the two of them. Is this the chance? Can they get enough hype out of this to do it again? And this time
UFC
in the
has the marketing.
UFC.
I don't think the UFC has the marketing know-how to get enough hype
Oh,
out of
they
it.
don't.
No, I don't think so.
No, they do. Somehow or another, I'm not sure how they do it, but UFC, I mean, they're being shown in the blast areas, much like WWE is for their pay-per-view events. Their pay-per-views trump WWE pay-per-views more often than not. I mean, they're expecting 1.2 million buys for their upcoming pay-per-view. WrestleMania last year, I believe, had 975,000 buys. And
that's because it's $50 a shot.
I believe the UFC is somewhere near that. I'm
No.
not exactly sure, but they do good business in pay-per-view. They do make money in their live events. Top tickets are $1,000, if not more, in these venues that they run across the country. So I think they can put the marketing behind it to their core audience. How they do that, I'm not even clear on.
The core audience is already going to be there, though. What they're trying to market to is the audience that they're trying to pull in.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to bring in new fans, and this is the match that you would want to use for, but I don't think they have the marketing and mass media reach that the WWE would have.
Very good. That's an actual media term.
Would have
an
the
advertising background?
I've got more of a background than you know.
I'd rather not know any more about your background.
The WWE.
Can you give me that?
The WWE, they just got more of their hands in the media, if you will, and they have more outlets to work with.
Ring of Honor, ladies and gentlemen, has crowned a brand new champion. As you may know, Homicide was the champion. One half of LAX was the champion of Ring of Honor. And at the event this past weekend in Philadelphia, which was also Samoa Joe's last match with Ring of Honor, the championship title belt was taken by Takeshi Morishima from the NOAH promotion. So new champion crown.
I want to get banged promotion?
No, it's not. New champion crown for Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor meathead actually comes to Chicago this weekend.
Chicago Ridge?
In Chicago Ridge, exactly. This Saturday night. If you are looking to go to that show, or Friday night show in Dayton, Ohio, visit ROHWrestling.com.
What the hell is in Dayton, Ohio?
The Irwin J. Nutter Center.
Oh, the Nutter Butter?
Which is where Raw after WrestleMania is going to be for some odd reason.
Are they going to run SmackDown and ECW there, too?
Why do you have such hate?
No,
what happened to you
I'm asking,
when you were a child to
the last how many years didn't they not run the mega show afterwards?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. You were there last year, were you not?
And they ran the show in Chicago.
It was Raw, and then they taped SmackDown ECW, not in the same venue. They went somewhere else.
Not smart.
Okay. ROHWrestling.com. Ring of Honor is also looking to continue their international expansion, as actually next weekend they are going to be across the pond in the United Kingdom. For most shows over there, they are broadcast on the TWC Fight Network over there.
TWC, is that saying for Things Will Change?
You're very taxing this week, you know.
About 3 weeks ago, Jamie was a little under the weather. And
I am again. I'm sick again.
Something he said to me, he goes, you know what? I can't take any more of you.
He's too much. Thank God it's only a half an hour, or an hour if you add PWR Interactive into the mix.
Well, that'll be fun, too.
Maybe I won't show up for that. Frank can handle it, huh? Christopher Daniels said to be getting a new gimmick within TNA, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. Look for vignettes to be airing soon. I like the Fallen Angel. Christopher Daniels is one of my favorite wrestlers.
But it's old now.
I don't think so.
It's old.
Saturday night's main event, Meathead, returns on March 10th.
To pimp WrestleMania, of course.
That is just in a couple weeks, yet you've heard nothing about it. It's going to be a taped show, Meathead. Taped on March 5th after a Raw, I believe, is when it will be taped in Phoenix, Arizona.
That's awful.
I'll be traveling near Phoenix, Arizona.
That's awful.
That time.
That is just bad business, I think.
We'll see what happens, but Saturday night's main event will be airing on March 10th, so it does return to the NBC television network, former home of the XFL.
Yeah, so was the new TNN.
Let's go to the Fan of the Week, ladies and gentlemen. This week, we told you a little bit earlier, this week the Fan of the Week comes to us from Richmond, Virginia. Here's my question for our fan of the week, Brent Armstrong. How is Virginia the South?
The Mason-Dixie line.
Dixon?
No, it's the Angie Dickinson line.
This is from Brent. He says, pretty much been hooked on your fine wrestling news, nicely fair and balanced, and a delight to watch each week except me. No, keep up the great work, guys. Anyway, on to my thoughts on the current situations of EFW needs some damn freeform wrestling, and WWE and the glorious TNA. What he says about ECW. EFW is in the pits creatively since the WWE rehash, and throwing their new bodies or talent isn't going to save them. Black Lesnar doesn't embody the attributes of ECW, nor does having him and with ECW and with the ECW writing team reshuffling and no Paul Heyman, let's just do them a favor and call them SmackDown Light, Lite, for now. But do we, the insipid fans of ECW, want push the heck out of the non-existent CM Punk, Rob Van Dam, and stop this new blood, new breed, new head lice nonsense? This is opinions of ECW. WWE in general has always been in creative freefall. Raw has the better vignettes and SmackDown has the better matches. How the heck do they plan to merge them eventually? Have Great Khali and Big Vis walk the streets of every city they visit to try to score with the trannies? Oh, shoot.
What happened was Damian meant to not read that.
As usual, Vince never has the common knowledge of the wrestling fan, embrace competition between promotions, even upstart promotions, and let your wrestlers do whatever the heck they want to do in the ring and give a better ring quality match that doesn't feel like 30 minutes of collective dark matches. WWE has a long road ahead of themselves to attract their lost fan base from TNA. I've got to challenge you on a couple of things in there. They don't have a plan to merge the brands eventually, as we stated earlier. Business-wise, they're making money. They're making more than they would if it's a single brand, arguably.
Hand over fist or fist over fist, depending on what you do.
Arguably, but also, I don't know if they've lost any fans to TNA.
No, I think that the fans that are watching WWE haven't left WWE to go watch TNA, but they have included TNA in their viewing.
Speaking of TNA, Brent goes on to say about TNA, TNA, the best brand out there, sports entertainment, continues to outperform WWE on every telecast. The 2-hour show will come to Spike TV mid-spring 2007, I hope. It's just a question of Spike and TNA agreeing if there will be a fair share of commercial revenue. Match quality is exceptional. Who thought a Cruiserweight volume as wide open as the X Division would attract Kurt Angle from a 7-figure WWE contract to help them out? RVD is probably coming there too, if no negotiated contract is reached with WWE, and knowing how close he is to Sabu, we could see both in TNA permanently. I also agree TNA did screw up their Monday special by re-airing their best matches due to date, but there was a silver lining to this move. New fans would see what all the ruckus about TNA is about. That's from our fan of the week, a very long email, but a very well thought out email from Brent Armstrong in the Richmond, Virginia area. Did you vote for Mr. Dean out there?
Yeah!
Governor of
the
state.
Yeah!
Let's go to hits and misses this week, ladies and gentlemen.
Is that taxing? Yeah!
I thought one of the hits of the week was JBL's performance at No Way Out. He stepped up, did what he needed to do, took over for an ailing Michael Cole, and did a great job of it. Also, another hit is the official return of the Money in the Bank match for WrestleMania. I think this match concept is one of the best match concepts since the Royal Rumble and the Elimination Chamber.
I like the Elimination Chamber,
and
but I liked it better when it was called the Ready to Rumble cage. The
Royal Rumble stipulation is what makes that match so great nowadays, and I think that's what also makes the Money in the Bank match great. And if Shelton Benjamin is not in that match this year, it is criminal.
And you know what's great about the Money in the Bank match, too, is that it's basically a match for the next level. I mean, even though Ric Flair got thrown in the match last year, it's a match for the next level.
And I also enjoyed the John Cena and Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels segment from Raw this past Monday night where they were selling their DVDs. And then we saw Big Dick Johnson get super kicked out of nowhere, which was great. The misses this week, unfortunately, there were several. And one of them came from Raw. No Shelton Benjamin, no crime time on Raw. It's Black History Month.
And you'd think they'd be on.
ECW's match at No Way Out. We talked about it when we were talking about No Way Out earlier. Pathetic. Should have been Extreme Rules at least.
And you had a guy in there that could help carry Black Lesnar, and it still sucked.
Also at No Way Out, Crystal. I'm not sure what was going on with her. Maybe it was that crack cocaine, don't know. But pretty much botched every interview she did backstage. And I agree with having pretty women do the interviews, but you've got a very talented Josh Matthews who can do a much better job in delivering the product.
Talk about creamy caramel.
Those are your hits and misses for the week, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go into our top fives, ladies and gentlemen. We always like to start with the man who doesn't think about his top fives until this very moment. He is the man they call Meathead. Go.
Number 5 on my, I was thinking about it right there. Number 5 on my top 5 list goes out to SmackDown's Sean Daivari. Number 4 on my top 5 list goes out to the Raw ring announcer.
Justin Roberts.
Number 3 on my top 5 goes...
Why are you being a prick?
Number 3 on my top 5 list
See
goes...
if you can keep it up for 5 people.
Number 3 on my top 5 list goes out to Raw's Rob Van Dam. Number 2 on my top 5 list goes out to the SmackDown tag team of the Hardy Boys. Oh, wait, half Raw, half SmackDown.
Which thus makes it an opportunity for
Number 1 on
both
my top
shows.
5 list. Number 1 on my top 5 list goes out to the Punk, or the Reject, or whatever his name is now, who used to be on ECW.
You're not fixing to do this, are you?
Oh, yeah. Shannon Moore, baby! See, the gimmick...
Are you thinking back to his 3-count days?
Yep. Tank Abbott was a big fan. I was a big fan.
The real top 5 list, ladies and gentlemen, the definitive top 5 list, the one each and every one of you clamored to the show to see this week. Number 5 is a surprisingly talented Elijah Burke.
Why is it surprising he's talented? It is
on the mic,
February.
talented in the ring.
It is February.
That doesn't mean he's just talented in February. What do you mean?
What do you mean?
You racist fool. Get out.
Number 4. Go.
John Cena continues to impress and excel each and every week, and I think he's been on my top 5 for the last several weeks. John Cena replacing Triple H right now in DX. Number 3 is the man who sold out the Staples Center for WrestleMania 21, No Way Out, and this last No Way Out.
The only good No Way Out we ever had was the NWO one.
Which was in this very city.
Mm-hmm.
JBL is number 3 on my list. Number 2 is the brand new WWE Women's Champion. Her name is Melina, now owned by Johnny Nitro.
Who still, by the way, can't wrestle.
And number 1, Johnny Nitro or Melina?
No, Melina.
Number 1 on my top 5 list, ladies and gentlemen, this week is Mr. McMahon.
Who does not wear a piece, but will be bald by April 2nd.
You care to make that interesting?
I bet you 1 paperclip.
That's a binder clip.
Close enough.
There's a difference. Those
I
are
put
much
these
more
on my
dangerous,
nipples
which is
before.
why I tried to... Ladies and gentlemen, that is this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune in to PWR Interactive with Frank Constantino and this person over here. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time right here on the Pro Wrestling Report.